tree place, or as I think of it, the tree place and much more. It's not an ordinary tree place as you might think of it, because we've got shrubs, perennials, annuals, ground covers, tropicals, and today we're going to be talking about, since we're in May and it's heating up, now we're in the season to where the flowers, perennials and annuals, that will take the heat and perform. We have them in stock, they're ready to go, and it may be a little hot at times for us, but these plants love it. They'll perform. So now I'm just going to lead you through a few different plants, and not every plant is for everybody, but we have a bunch of colors, and pretty much all the ones that I pulled here, they're above average. And some of them, I refer to them as overachievers. So they're more than worth the effort. One of them that I'm speaking of in that vein is bunch of different colors. We don't have blues, but we've got pinks and reds and whites, and one of them in there is kind of a little purpley, and we also have
those are periwinkles, correct?
Periwinkles.
Got it.
And these are, we have them in two forms, the trailing and upright. You can kind of see the difference here. These guys here are the uprights, getting kind of tall, and these guys are trailing. You can see they're kind of already going kind of sideways. So, and the neat thing about those, several things. They hail from Madagascar. So technically they're Madagascar periwinkles. So if you need a little geography research, you can do that later, but I can tell you, it's not a comfy place. It's hostile. These guys have to endure a lot of heat and not that much water. So that's kind of in their DNA, and that's what we're going to be serving up for the next 3 or 4 or 5 months. One of the other neat things is they'll go from now until typically Halloween. Not unusual for them to go till Thanksgiving. A few years back I saw some Christmas look great. That's unusual, but it can happen. And probably one of the neatest things about them is they're fastidious. They clean themselves. When the flowers are finished, which they last a good while, but when they're finished, they'll shrivel up, dry up, and fall off. So they're self-cleaning. So if you put them in a hanging basket or in a pot that's in a real noticed position around your house, they're always going to look just about forest quality of appearance. So a real trooper. And since we're on annuals of the hot persuasion, I'll also get into, and of course there's also variety in them. This one came out recently. It's kind of a pipsqueak, but cute as can be. The cute meter went off the dial, went off the needle went off the gauge on this one, and this one will get about 12 inches tall and about 15 inches wide. So you could do it in a hanging basket or in the edge of a big pot, and it also extremely heat tolerant and very clean, neat appearance. One that came out a while back, the Angelonia, and speaking of colors, it's not just black and white, although we do have black and white and pink and purple, and we've got some different colors. And of course these are gallon pots here. We also have 4-inch pots, and over here they've been around for a while. You see these in a lot of landscapes, pentas, and that's another one that great selection of colors. They bloom all through the summer into the fall. Lavender, red, white, darker purple, and those are also common name starflower. and those just keep going and going. They can, if you don't deadhead them or kind of clean them, they'll keep blooming and looking good, but you can kind of speed that along. I'll show you on this one. Like this guy in the middle, he's beginning to fade. And you can go in here and usually when that guy's fading, he's got buds on either side coming up to replace him. So quick little snip, and he's back in great form. Also annuals, we've got Scavola, or you can see it a little bit on this one. It's also called fan flower, but it comes in an assortment of colors: purple, blues, pinks. Also comes in white's not very common, but it is out there available. And speaking of something that unusual that looks neat, there's a euphorbia, a spray. It looks neat around all kind of flowers, blue flowers. Neat to have something that's and I've made up before this with some other upright and airy plants in a big container, tall, kind of open, different colors, and those pots, I call them the 4th of July. If you think of fireworks, this is the one that explodes and does all the little white things all over. Really cool plant. And periwinkles also, these are the trailing, done in hanging baskets, and extremely well performing. Now once you get into the real heat of summer, even though they are efficient on their use of water, since they're in a hanging basket and they get to be a pretty good plant, and we have heat and wind, once it starts to get hot, they'll probably need watering every day, but not that much water, but hit them once and they'll keep going and going. Of course, another annual, years ago, plants come in and out of fashion, and coleus used to be thought of as old-fashioned, and then the plant breeders got a hold of them, and there are so many cool colors and forms in coleus. You're gonna like some of them, you can't help it. Of course, I also have some kind of neat names. This one's called wasabi. Every time I hear that, I think of the Lone Ranger. He was Kemosabe. Well, this is his cousin Wasabi, but really cool. There's another one we have here that's about the same color, but it's just a regular leaf. But this one's got the sculpting, and these guys, neat thing about them, when you're doing, especially if you're doing big containers or even in your flower beds, a lot of the annuals nowadays aren't that tall. So when you're looking for something to give it a little height, you can see things and it's like 6 inches tall, 14 inches tall, short, and when you want something to provide a little height, coleus, they'll go 2.5 feet. And a lot of them have big leaves, and you've got a great selection of colors. And most of the ones we have now are classified as sun coleus. So they'll take our sun and perform. But the neat thing is, they'll also be happy with shade. They're adaptable, but they're tough enough to do sun and give you some height. So like this pot here, you put a coleus in there, and it's going to be up here. And of course, sometimes they would not necessarily be the best of neighbors. They might start crowding some other people out. So the thing to remember is, you're in charge, not the coleus. So if he starts crowding the wrong person, you just snip a few here and there, and all of a sudden he's in check. When you cut it back here, these leaves here will come on, so you can reduce the height and it'll just get bushier. And you can, or you could cut it at the very bottom if you got something taking up room. So don't be shy about it. And of course, it doesn't take much. You can do your own hanging baskets. I just plug these in about 2 minutes, and I've got 3 periwinkle trailing type, and then I put in, this, the little guy, Silver Falls. It's a dichondra. Some people call it a ponyfoot. You might have some of these that are green in color in your yard. They're weeds. Although in California, they can actually be used for turf. But these guys get really long. The little tag on them says they could trail 4 feet. Well, I think if you put this 10 feet in the air by the end of the season, they're going to be touching the ground. They know go, but they don't know whoa. So they can also be trimmed. It will not hurt them. Earlier, I said that the tree place, not your ordinary tree farm. Well, here's something. This is an artemisia, and I'd seen this in books before, never in person. Macana silver. Now, let me put that in perspective for you. I've never seen it in person. This is decades of nurseryman experience talking, and I had never been in the same room with this. So, this is not just an ordinary place. I'm seeing things I've never seen before, and I've seen a lot. So, how cool is that? I just love it. Now, I'll tell you, I saw in one book, they had a neat thing in a garden. The person was really artistic, and this would have fit right in because they had a little sunken path and the sides raised up a little bit. And they had different plantings, and it was made to look like a coral reef with sponges and corals and anemones. And have you not seen that in a nature film on a coral reef? Kind of like an anemone, where they suck back in and then they come back out. Just a really, really cool thing. That's one of my to-do lists. I don't know, but I want to do it someday. Really cool. And while we're here, these are caladiums, and this variety is called Miss Muffet. It pegged the cool meter, just too cool. I mean, the color and the textures, that's a shade plant to part sun. Not super hot, but a lot of places that'll work. And these it comes from a bulb. So they come up in a little bulb, very shallow in the soil. But man, that's a natural for in a pot, in a shade bed, or if you're trying to do a big pot and have it look kind of tropical. Everything with big leaves, to me, says tropical. Those guys, big, neat leaves. Okay, we've covered those guys. Now, this is, if you have a big pot and the party's tomorrow, and you've got to go, you want to look like, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to perform my only feat of strength on this show. You see this big pot? Woo! God, that guy's strong? No, I'm not. Pretty weak. Ask around, they'll tell you. But when you're going to do a big pot, if you need it quick, these guys, that's a hanging basket. That's a hanging basket. That's a 2-gallon pot. So I just took the wires off and set them in there. And these trail. This is Blue Days. It's another one of my favorites. It's like periwinkle. Can't get too hot for it. It trails over. We We had this in a hanging basket. We also have them in little 4-inch pots. So you could do the same thing as this hanging basket with some of the 4-inch pot. And here's another cool item, bat face kufia. You know, and the bat face is, see this little flower, if I got one that's, yeah, there we go. See, the little purple part, that's his face, and the orange is his ears. But this guy loves the heat and blooms through the summer into the fall. So he's in good company in this pot. And I'll spin it around. I put some of the silver falls in here. I also plugged in, this is a potato vine. This guy happens to be in bloom. Of course, that's not their claim to fame. It's just one little 4-inch pot that's trying to fall into the pot. See, there you go. And these guys grow like, they're another one that knows go but doesn't know whoa. So they will take off once you, where I refer to it is removing it from the captivity of this dinky little pot. You put it in this big pot and they take off. So we got another of those guys. This is a cordyline, and it'll get about 2 feet. And red sensation, evergreen. Now it's not really big winter hardy, so if you wanted to keep it, you know, in the worst part of the winter, you'd need to protect it. And then here we go, one of my favorite plants, and it comes in different forms and colors, Joseph's coat. And this one we got it in, and it was a little more green. We set it here in a bunch of sun, and man, the purple came on. So, and of course, we looked at these over there. That's an Angelonia. Back to the periwinkle, and another Joseph's coat. And just so you'll know, I'm not telling stories. Start to do a pot, they rarely turn out the way I start out to make them. You know, during the process, something comes up or changes, and it's like, wow, I didn't plan that, but I'm going to claim credit for it. It looks pretty good. Oop. I just did an old nurseryman's trick. I just took a nut upside down pot in there to hold them in the right place. So what you do when you're planting it, you put your soil up to the right level for your biggest item. You get him situated in there, and then you plant the others around. Of course, now I'll tell you a trick that I use. Once I get it positioned, I go ahead and get the plant out of the way. I just use a pot. So once I have them positioned where they're going, I put in the soil and then get the plants located, put the plants out on the side, put the pot in, and I plant all the pots. That way you're less likely to break the plants, and when you put them in, you know they're at the right level because you drop it in and you use the pot to make the depth. Okay, now we'll talk about some perennials. May, if you're going to go to the Fort Worth Botanical Garden, May is the best month. The flowers are doing their thing, and it hasn't been hot long enough to stress anybody out. Right here, we'll just run through a few. Coreopsis, we've got 2 varieties here. They will bloom through the summer into the fall. This is Russian sage. He will bloom through the summer into the fall. Tough plant. Here's the native plant, Blackfoot daisy. He only gets about that tall, but it gets wider and is bloom from now until probably when it gets cold. And a native plant and just about evergreen. If we have an okay winter, not horrible, he'll remain evergreen. Daylilies, who can do without them? This is a cute one. It's a dwarf. So this one will bloom from now till the end of July or into August. Super. One of my favorites, will outlive us all. Daylilies hang in there forever. And then, here we go, skull cap. This guy, he's gonna get 12 inches, maybe 15 inches tall, and get wider, maybe 2 feet wide, and is semi-evergreen. In fact, I was at the Botanical Garden a couple years ago in early January, and the ones they had there were foliage was still evergreen. So impressive. And I'm also a sucker for not only for texture, but I love silver plants. This is Helen von Stein lamb's ear, the most petted plant in the nursery. Really soft. And we also have another variety called carpet, which is a smaller leaf and stays lower. And these are evergreen. It takes a really bad cold to nip their leaves, but they would still survive it. One of my favorites, yarrow. This one is a variety called Moonshine. Got the silver foliage, and it's, here we go, with sending up blooms through the summer. And of course, like everything, when the blooms fade, you can snip them off and it'll put more. And butterflies love it. And to me, when you see a butterfly on it, it kind of looks like it reminds me of a helicopter coming down on a landing pad on the top of the building. It's kind of a little flat perch up there. But very tough plant, good bloom season, neat colors. It comes in different colors. A lot of them are green. This one, silver foliage. And then neat colors. Autumn sage comes in a bunch of different colors. And I brought this one just because, wow, apricot, just, it comes in red, white, purple, pink, you know, and mixtures of those colors. But this is the only one we had in this color, and I just love it. And then I mentioned the yarrow's going to bring in butterflies. The other thing that brings them in is lantana. Bunch of different neat colors. Orangey red, white, kind of yellowish, pink. Just too cool. And then one of the favorites, just for appearances, if you didn't want to do this guy, you could do this guy. He's gonna get big though. He's not as restrained as the cordyline. But, you know, he could probably take up the pot all by himself if you gave him the time. But a neat color. And of course, this is a purple fountain grass. He'll put out the little, you know, seed heads. Very ornamental and tough. Takes the summer heat. And I think that's, I think everybody got their exposure. So, you know, and these guys, you put them in now, they go through the summer, and most of them, it'll be cold before they quit. And then you can do your cold weather things in November, and there are a bunch of those that will make it until May. So, you know, 2 plantings a year, and you're covered in blooms year round. Pretty neat thing. I guess that'll do it for now. A lot of information. Thanks.